it is the feast of the Ascension of Jesus, I offer this question. Where did Jesus go? Which direction do you think he went? Did Jesus go up or where? Let me tell you how I would answer that question by way of something I experienced. Now, this past week I drove over 10 hours to a 2-day meeting in Minnesota with Ken, one of my best priest friends. Ken was ordained a few years before me and is a part of the same priest support group I've been in for almost 43 years. Ken is smart. I mean, really, really smart. He can also sometimes be just a bit sarcastic and would sometimes describe himself as being a bit of a curmudgeon. Now, faith does not come easily for Ken, and he would say clearly of himself, quote, "I am no saint." Now, 5 years ago, before there were any vaccinations for this, Ken got so sick from COVID-19 that he came close to dying. Ken contracted COVID-19 because he was ministering to the guys at the retirement home for priests, Regina Clary, who did have the disease, right? And as the coronavirus began to spread there, Ken and one staff person there sent everyone else home for their safety. So to help the priests there, Ken would bring them food, clean the trash from their rooms, help them dress if the disease made them too weak to do so, listen to their fears, drive them to the hospital, and lots more. 6 of those priests died, and I don't know how many others would have died, or at least suffered more, except for Ken's intervention. Now, when things had settled down a bit, and I again saw Ken at a meeting of our little priest group, several times I made myself not look at him, because when I did, I would start crying. The fact that Ken got close to dying from all of this, and in fact could have died, shoved into my face how sad I would have been had he in fact done so. The question I asked to begin on this feast of the Ascension of Jesus, which direction did he go? I suggest that Jesus did not go up, but Jesus went in. And to be more specific, Jesus went inside my buddy, inside my imperfect buddy, Ken. When there was this time of great need, Ken, mostly out of habit, drew on that part of him where he was both himself and more than himself, so that he could do what was needed for love. You know, to our temptation to mostly look up or to look out there, today's first reading offers this corrective. 2 men in white say to those first disciples, "Why are you standing here looking at the sky?" In other words, you've been looking in the wrong place. Where did Jesus go? I mean, he did not go up. He went in. Inside Ken, inside each person, inside each moment, inside me, inside you. And that's forever. Jesus named it this way today. Know that I am with you always, to the end of the world, always. Oh, I know it can sometimes be easier to name God as up there somewhere maybe, but then too often we miss God who is here, right? The poet puts it this way: earth is crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire with God, but only those who see take off their shoes. If we mostly look up to find God, we most likely won't see. We most likely will miss God. God, right here, now, always now. Ken said he wants this carved onto his tombstone. Bidden or unbidden, God is here. And I suggest that that each person knows how to access an awareness of that presence. I mean, you might not think so, but you've done this already. And it's something we can get better at. I do think that the more we practice being awake to a moment, the more we can see and be awake to the fact that God is also in that moment. So my simple invitation is this: stop. That's it, really. Just stop. Stop racing ahead or thinking so intensely. Just stop to become aware of the moment. Because God is always in the moment, this moment, in this. Now, just so you know, one part of me wrestled with maybe ending this homily right here, but you're not so lucky. I'll also add this, that you and I would also do well to practicing being aware of that presence of God inside ourselves, in us. And maybe you've never named this place inside of you, but I bet you've experienced it. It's this place inside of each of us where we are both ourselves. We are ourselves. And we are somehow also more than ourselves. I mean, haven't you ever sensed that in some moment you were being you, your best you, even more than you thought you were? Huh? I mean, it's almost as if you were more than just you. You know, maybe almost to your surprise, you found it in yourself to speak up in some situation when it was needed. Or maybe to your surprise, you found it in yourself to be quiet when that was what was needed. Or perhaps you saw human suffering and felt compassion well up in your heart in a way that you wouldn't normally. And perhaps there was this moment where you trusted what was inside of yourself, that you have in you what you need. Maybe you found yourself surprisingly generous, or maybe just for a moment you felt at peace with this world, or what? I mean, how would you name that experience inside of you, right? That place in you. There's a timelessness to those brief moments, isn't there? They're at once both extraordinary and ordinary. And you can't explain it. I mean, words are always so useless when we try to describe those experiences. But I bet you've known that. May 24th, 1980, Ken was one of the many priests who laid hands on my head as I was being ordained a priest. And this Thursday, driving back from our meeting in Minnesota, once or twice I looked over at Ken, who had his head back, listening to some German opera, fortunately only in his headphones. and I know I'll never be quite as smart as Ken, nor quite as cultured. It's okay. But if I ever am asked to do what Ken was asked to do at a time of such terrible crisis, I pray that I will rise to the occasion like he did, to draw on what is in me to do what is needed, because no, Jesus did not go up. The risen Christ went in. Inside Ken, inside each person, inside each moment, inside me, inside you.